Hey there, thanks for tuning in today. Before we continue, I do want to let you know that this interview does talk about stillbirth. So if this is something that's upsetting to you or you might find difficult to watch, please proceed with caution. Thank you.
The IUGR that I had was caused by preeclampsia. A lack of blood flow made my placenta not develop properly, and then it didn't allow my placenta to function properly and then to sustain Junie's life. So that, along with a typo on my due date, is kind of what led to Junie being stillborn.
So on this show, I like to highlight all kinds of moms sharing different struggles, different areas of triumph, how they've succeeded, how they're still learning. I think today's interview is very difficult. It's going to be difficult for many to watch, but I think it's very important. I personally learned a lot, and I also felt a lot of strength through this mom. Amanda's going to talk all about the birth of her first daughter, Juniper. Juniper was stillborn, and while it is something she is still figuring out every day, she does this amazing job of keeping Juniper's memory alive through photographs, through laughter, and through support with her family. So without further ado, I just want you guys to open your hearts and open your mind to this awesome interview. I think it shows a tale of tons of strength, and I'm really excited for you guys to see it. Check it out. Today, we are going to be talking with Amanda. I actually first saw her story on Love What Matters, and I kind of just want to jump in and first allow you to introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of get into your story.
Sounds good. My name is Amanda, and my husband and I, Mitch, we live in a small town in Minnesota. We have two daughters. Their names are Juniper and Coral, and we also have a dog and a cat, Penny and Gypsy. I'm a professional photographer, and I really like the color orange.
Awesome. That explains your Instagram handle. I love it. It's so pretty. It's so curated. I love it.
Thank you. It's not even like I try to do that. Like, my entire house is orange. I drive 2 orange cars.
Oh my gosh.
My handle is Orange AF, Mama, and my initials are AF, so it works out perfect.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's like a double whammy there. It works.
Yes.
Awesome. So the story we're going to share about today is about your daughter, Juniper. Like I said, I read your story on Love What Matters, and it's such a unique story of strength and just how you became a mom and just how your vulnerability and strength shone through. So I'm just going to give you the floor and allow you just to share your story and walk us through it.
Our daughter, Juniper, was our first child, and she died and was born on Thursday, August 9th, 2018. She was stillborn at full term unexpectedly. So she was growth restricted, IUGR, which is intrauterine growth restriction, which we kind of discovered at 20 weeks. But IUGR does not have to be a fatal diagnosis. So starting at 20 weeks, she was measuring small. The IUGR that I had was caused by preeclampsia. A lack of blood flow made my placenta not develop properly, and then it didn't allow my placenta to function properly and then to sustain Junie's life. So that, along with a typo on my due date, is kind of what led to Junie being stillborn. So at 20 weeks, she was measuring really small. And so then from my regular care provider, I was sent to a high-risk specialty clinic, MFM, maternal fetal medicine, to be watched more closely, to make sure that she was small, but she was still growing fine. And then just to keep an extra eye on her. And it's kind of weird because before this, I kind of thought oh, if you're pregnant and you're being watched more closely, you know something could go wrong. It's almost like you were prepared. And I guess it almost feels the opposite for me, that it felt like since we were being watched so closely, I started going weekly for checks, and then I was being seen twice a week with ultrasounds and with non-stress tests. And so I kind of thought the opposite, that, nothing can go wrong. They're going to catch anything that would go wrong before it would go wrong. And now I know that wrong means that she would die. And hindsight's 2020. Stillbirth was only mentioned to us once when I was pregnant with her. And with how severely growth restricted she was, I feel like that's something that should have been talked about more closely. And just everything, there should have been way more detail looked at overall in my pregnancy a lot more closely. So yeah, starting at 20 weeks, we started going to MFM. So we were watching her growth really closely. And then weekly, and then eventually twice a week, we did biophysical profiles and non-stress tests. If you're not familiar, these are basically health assessments that are done of the baby in your womb. And every test we did, she got an 8 out of 8 or 10 out of 10, however you look at it. They always said she was perfect. She was small, but she's perfect. So the due date thing that I mentioned with IUGR, basically you don't want to ask too much out of your placenta. So the due date being messed up was a big deal, because with IUGR babies, you want to deliver them by 37 weeks, not any later, because that's proven when placentas tend to shut down and then not support your baby anymore. We never had an earlier dating ultrasound with Junie, so the 20-week was our first. And since she was already measuring small then, that's what kind of started muddying the waters. That report, there was a typo concerning my due date, how they list estimated due date by last menstrual period and then estimated due date by measurements on ultrasound, and those just got all messed up or something. So when I was 26 weeks pregnant, they decided to change my due date, which is far too late to change a due date, and they pushed it out by 11 days. So when I delivered Junie, my chart said I was 36 weeks, 3 days, but we think I was actually more like 38 and 2. So we were just too late, essentially. So yeah, back to Junie's pregnancy, we were going weekly, and then we went twice a week. So Junie's birth date ended up being, it was our last regular scheduled appointment. We were going to MFM for an ultrasound, and thankfully my husband was coming with me to this one because it was a big one. I was checking her growth. We were hoping to see that she was still growing before I was going to be induced. So this was 4 days before my scheduled induction. So we lived just outside of the Twin Cities. So we were in the cities at MFM, and we were told that there is no heartbeat. And actually, when the sonographer started the scan, I knew right away what was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. I thought, oh, the TV is broken. The screen's broken. That's someone else's ultrasound. She's accidentally pulling up. And yeah, I don't know where you want me to go from there.
Was it more like a gut feeling then? And what was your first reaction then after that, when the doctor told you that there was no heartbeat?
So when the tech started scanning and I knew it was wrong, she had to leave the room and say, I need to get the doctor. There's something concerning. And my husband was like, well, what's wrong? And I told him, I said the words first, actually, there's no heartbeat. But we didn't want to believe it. Like I said, we thought the equipment was broken. So then the doctor came in and told us, and just absolute shock. Like, I was 9 months pregnant. I had been feeling her kick all these months. We'd been watched so closely. Like, no, that can't be right. That can't be true. And so it was just absolutely terrible, obviously. Mm-hmm. I remember saying, I don't want to leave this room. The nurse and the sonographer brought us tissues, and I kept saying I didn't want to leave this room. I felt like if I didn't leave that room, it wasn't true. Mm-hmm. And that it was just a bad dream at that point. Mm-hmm. I want to pause and back up on my story a little bit here. Just some background on me and my experience that has influenced everything. Before I was pregnant with Juniper, I had reached out to Star Legacy Foundation, which is a national stillbirth support organization. I wanted to be involved with them to photograph families in loss situations. Mm-hmm. So before I was pregnant with Juniper, I went through training, their peer companion support training, how to support a family in loss, so that I could photograph families in these types of situations.
Oh, wow.
Which is just, I don't know, ironic, coincidental that I had gone through this training before I had experienced it myself. I feel like most of the time you only get involved with something so sad like stillbirth once you've experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just ironic, part of my story. So on Junie's birthday, when we found out there was no heartbeat, like I already knew that I was going to have to still deliver her. And I knew that we wanted to have photos taken. I knew it was really important to have our family come and meet her, and things like that. Side note, we didn't know that Junie was a girl. So like still at this time, I didn't know if I was having a boy or a girl. So
do you think going through that extra training for photographing families with loss, do you think that helped you cope and like in a different way than if you hadn't gone through that training?
absolutely. Like you can never truly be prepared for the death of your child, especially to have a baby that is stillborn. But I leaned heavily on the things that I had learned in that training. And like I said, I think that helps me approach all of this really hard stuff in a really unique sense. Just that, like, I knew that I was going to have to give birth to her and stuff. Like, that was a huge thing after Junie was born that I encountered. People didn't realize that you have to give birth when your baby has died. So that training, like, it made me know that it was important to spend time with her and make memories, and things like that.
How did the rest of that day go, like with bringing in your family and getting the photos done?
So when we did finally leave the clinic, I'm so thankful my husband was with me that day, because since I was going so frequently, he wasn't coming to all of my appointments because he wanted to have time off work once the baby was here, obviously. So we left the clinic. We stopped at home. I remember I had my hospital bags packed. We were going to be having a baby any day. And I took out my nursing bras and my nursing tank tops. I knew I wouldn't need those. And that was really hard. And then I went to where I had my baby bag packed. And I just grabbed a blanket that I had that I was really looking forward to using. So I didn't bring the baby bag. I just brought this orange blanket that I was really excited about. And when we stopped at home, my dog was just out of sorts. You could tell she knew something was wrong. So then we left from there and we went to the hospital. And it felt like we sat in the room forever before anything got started. Like they were so kind, they were so sweet. And they were like, you can go home, you can go for a walk, like take your time, you can come back, like when you're ready. And it was like, well, we're never going to be ready. And I just, at that point, I wanted to meet our baby because that was all we could do. And I honestly, at that point, I felt gross. Like I just wanted to get the baby out of me. Anytime like my husband would hug me, I'd like kind of turn to the side. I didn't want him to, I don't know, it was just weird. So we sat in the hospital room for what seemed like forever until I finally got induced. I asked for an epidural. I was planning to get an epidural regardless. And then even more so, I wanted an epidural. I said, I don't want to feel anything. And I know many moms that have actually approached it in the opposite way. They wanted to feel everything, which I think is so incredible that was their last act of mothering with their baby, which I think is so sweet. But I don't like pain. I was already in enough pain. So an epidural, my doctor broke my water. I labored for about 5.5 hours. And then I pushed for 2 hours and 11 minutes. And Junie was born silently. The whole time I was in labor too, though, it was really important for us to still have some humor about us. That's definitely what's kind of got us through some of these really, really hard days. The night before Junie was born, my husband was painting in the nursery. And so in the hospital, he had paint on his hands. And so while I was pushing, and he was really like last minute working on the baby's room, obviously. While I was pushing, one of the nurses noticed the paint on his hands, and he was like, well, don't worry, Amanda, I'll have the baby's room ready in time for the next kid. So that was pretty funny. And then when Junie was born, like I said, we didn't know if she was a boy or girl. And my doctor was actually stitching me up, and I questioned her knowing how to stitch me up because I saw Junie's umbilical cord and I thought it was a boy, and I was like, this is a boy, and you said it was a girl, and she was like, no, it's a girl.
Oh.
So there was definitely some laughter, which I think was really important to surround Junie still with laughter and happy memories.
Absolutely.
So once she was born and I got all cleaned up and everything, I'm a photographer, so I know a lot of photographers. So my friend Steph, who's a photographer, came and she photographed me and Mitch and Juniper together. And then our families came in. Side note, some of our families went on a beer run while I was in labor, so they were a little late coming in, which is another really kind of funny part to Junie's story, which I can enjoy and appreciate. So our families came in, our parents and our siblings. My older brother, unfortunately, was out of town at a work conference, but my sister-in-law was able to come, so that was really good. So we spent a few hours with everyone. Everyone got to hold Junie, take some pictures. Always wish I had more photos. Here's Junie.
Oh.
There, it's kind of shiny.
Yeah.
And then there's her pretty orange blanket.
So cute. Yeah.
And her big gold bow. Kind of funny. So I was put on bed rest the last week of my pregnancy before she was born, and I actually thought we were having a boy. My husband and I both did. And the day before she was born, I had a dream that she was a girl. And one of my friends was coming over that morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could have a girl. I don't have any headbands. And she brought some of her daughter's headbands over. So that gold bow was borrowed.
Oh.
But it was so perfect. So so our families left. We spent the night at the hospital. My blood pressures were still in kind of a scary zone with the preeclampsia. And I, of course, with our humor, I like to joke that we took rooming into a whole new level because Junie got to spend the night on my bed with me. So that was really special. We woke up to a beautiful orange sunrise, which of course was perfect for me. We had our families come back that next morning, and we had a little dedication ceremony with her with the chaplain from the hospital, which was really sweet and special. And a really fun thing is that Lindsay from Star Legacy actually came out to support me, and she brought out a few different angel gowns for Junie to wear. I remember when we had stopped at home, and as I was grabbing that baby bag, I had some onesies packed, but like at that point, just like a onesie with a teddy bear on it just didn't seem quite right to dress the baby. Like it didn't feel like dignified enough. So that's why I only brought the blanket and the headbands. So Lindsay had brought some angel gowns, which was really sweet. A lot of volunteers make them out of wedding dresses. So they're detailed and lacy and a lot more dignified than just a onesie. And she had set out the selection on my bed, and they were all white, of course. And I was like, really, like, where's my orange dress for my girl, you know? And our nurse was like, hold on. And she went running out of the room, and she came running back in. Mitch remembers this, and I don't, but he was like, she was out of breath. She like ran so fast. And she came in with this cute, sweet little orange angel gown that fit her perfectly. So that was really, really special that we had that. Of course, when I made that comment about an orange dress, I was totally joking. Like,
hey guys, thanks for watching part 1 of my interview with Amanda Feltman. I hope you were just as inspired by her as I was. I mean, come on. The way she keeps her daughter's memory alive is nothing short of amazing. So, for next week, exactly 3 months later, or pretty close to 3 months later, Amanda found out her and her husband were expecting again, this time with another baby girl. So next week we're going to talk a little bit more about that journey and what it was like the second time of being pregnant. So stay tuned, and I will see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. If you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and click on the subscribe button. It should be down here somewhere. We release new episodes every single Wednesday, and if you're not following us yet, be sure to follow us at Mommy Knows Best on Instagram. And remember, if you're watching this and doubting yourself, you are a great mom. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week.